farmers. You see this very clearly in Poland as well. Confederation
네, 뭐
on
망치
the right,
나고.
on the far right, it didn't do well in national elections. It's hoping to jump on the farmers issue to do well at European level and then on local level. So, this farmers issue, even though farming, if you look at the EU GDP in 2022, where we have the figures, farming is 1.4% of EU GDP. But in terms of voices, Justin, it's much, much more larger than that, with the fear of the far right. And Ukraine, don't forget Ukraine is important to think, because with talk of Ukraine joining the EU, there's now all this complaint about cheap Ukrainian grain in the market. The Common Agricultural Policy, France is the main beneficiary from that. So this is not just a national headache, this is an EU headache right now and for the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Katya. Let us turn to Mireille Clapeau, who is an MP for President Macron's Renaissance Party and joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you think he is going to have to give way?
이거 샀어요. 관계 경우요.
I think in France, farmers are very important because everybody has either a mother, father, or grandparents who was a farmer. And therefore, the symbolic impact of the anger among farmers is very important. But today, we have a modern agriculture, and we must face these challenges with them, with the farmers, and not against them. Among these challenges is ecological challenge, because we need to have food sovereignty, which is very important, not only in France but at the level of the European Union. And we know that there is inflation, energy is very costly now, water is very expensive also, and we have, I think, a specific problem in France, which is the bureaucracy, and they do feel badly this high level of bureaucracy. And in addition to that, we have the calendar. There are some elections coming, not only the European elections, but the elections among the trade unions of the agricultural
all of which puts pressure on
yes,
President Macron's
exactly.
government. Do you believe, though, that this is something that speaks to a wider set of problems than simply those felt by farmers and people in the countryside?
I live in the countryside, and part of my neighbors are farmers, part of them are not farmers, and we share their difficulties when there is a high wind, when there is snow, when there is the temperatures very low. We know them. Don't like to be waiting at restaurants but I understand that they should buy more products that are produced locally, not only nice
where the lies come, where shocks come, gasps come, inevitably affect you, and so an audience's enthusiasm really feeds your performance.
You're fresh from playing the King in his Prince Charles years and in the latest seasons of The Crown.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to play someone who is, not that people know him, but is such a familiar figure to the whole country and beyond?
Well, it was difficult. I mean, ultimately, you have to forget about all that. You play the character that the writer has written, and so that's really what I was trying to do. It's such a relief now to go back to theatre and not have to talk about the monarchy anymore.
I guess it's the kind of role that you must have thought long and hard about for all the obvious reasons, not wanting to caricature, and presumably because you've met the King, you've done charity things with him.
Yes, I was involved in the Prince's Trust, as lots of actors are, and I'm a great admirer of his, and so I was reluctant to take it on, but you don't turn down a Peter Morgan script very easily. He's such a great writer, and it's such a great show, and I love being on it. I love wearing the clothes. I love driving the cars, and I love having people bow to me. It's absolutely wonderful feeling. I miss it.
No bowing of any kind anymore in your life?
No, it's terrible. No. I'm trying to get my kids to live, but they won't. I don't know.
Well, one of your kids was in this with you, wasn't he? In the early part?
Senan played Prince William. William was sort of age 12, 13, and was brilliant. And it was great to introduce him to acting and for him to work with all these amazing people. So he was very lucky, and we had a great time last season.
Does it worry you the royal family's reaction, or are you able to one side what they may or may not think fit?
Well, I don't want to make their lives any more difficult than they already are. So I suppose it does concern you. All reactions worry you. I read all the reviews, and I spent 2 days in bed. So yes, I'm a sensitive soul, and I worry about what people think.
Yeah, that must be part of the course of your life. And Dominic West, thank you very much. A View from the Bridge, directed by Lindsay Foster, starts at the Euston Studio in Bath next month, and then the Theatre Royal Haymarket in London from the 23rd of May until the 3rd of August. Thanks, Dominic.
Thanks, Michelle.
Can't you just say as a method actor you want to live as the King for a bit and tell your family that it's an important part of the artistic process?
Yeah, you try that with my wife.
Good to see you. Thank you very much for coming into the studio. Let us, before we get to the sport, which we are going to get to, but we're not going to get to until after news time, let us tell you what's coming up after 9 o'clock. So John Ronson is going to be here with the latest episode of his hit series, Please Spell It.
Huh?
Today's episode of a young man maddened by strict lockdown laws.
Why does Ken have
Suddenly found himself under arrest for the most unlikely crime.
15 guys just straight up hacking him down on the ground.
Okay.
Stop resisting. Put your hands
誒，我唔係講俾你聽。
This is what you've been trained for all of these months. And then when it happened, you blew it. Yeah, they just grabbed you.
Things fell apart. Season 2 with me, John Ronson, in half an hour on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
Meanwhile, the weather today pretty much dry and increasingly bright, rather cold tonight, windy in the north.
Today, Radio 4 Sean saying Belfast West London is clear on those tonight now on August 15th.
For the first time in nearly 2 years, victims of power sharing set to return to Northern Ireland after the DUP decided to accept an agreement with Westminster, tackling its concerns of the post-Brexit trade rules. Partially dissident governments said restoring the administration will be subject to the UK government review. Details of which will be published. The report was called Sexual Harassment, use of women in the music industry is still common. Cross-party Women and Equalities Committee concluded that misogyny is endemic and has called for urgent action to tackle discrimination. HSBC has been fined more than £57 million by Bank of England for serious failures in protecting some customer deposits. Failures date from 2015 to 2022. The court in Pakistan has sentenced the former Prime Minister Imran Khan to 10 years in prison for leaking diplomatic correspondence. The prosecution relates to a document sent between Washington and Islamabad when Mr. Khan was in office. He's currently in jail in connection with other cases.
Thank you. It is 28 minutes to 9. We have found Carter, or Carter is the person she needs to talk to. Something is happening in the world of sport. Here's you.
Absolutely nothing to do with Rio, I have to say. But Blackburn Rovers have put their place in the 5th round of the FA Cup after a 4-1 win over League Two side Wrexham, who took 7,000 away fans to Ewood Park for the game last night. There's a full midweek fixture list in the Premier League, and there will be commentary of all of tonight's games on 5 Live, 5 Sports Extra, or BBC Sounds. The former Chelsea and Everton winger Pat Nevin will be involved in tonight's coverage, and we will speak to Pat. Pat, Arsenal are in 3rd place. They're away at Nottingham Forest, and they've not won in their last 3 league away matches, Arsenal. Will they be looking at this as a way of pushing towards that title race coming up now?
They had such a stinker of a December that they are desperate to get back on the wheel again. To be honest, they have been since Christmas time. And they've not fallen too far off. You know, they've got the 40 points off each other. So, they're right in there with us.
It's fine.
You know, they've got
Are you sure?
they're fighting the balance for everything now. So, yeah, I think it's one of the might suggest that one. And Arsenal still do it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an interesting one tonight. And as you mentioned, they're 43 points for all 3 sides. Man City, Manchester City, Arsenal and Aston Villa. Liverpool top of the table on 48 points. Villa are the ones in 4th place, and they host Newcastle United tonight, which is a game I think you're going to be at. Villa, which is so hard to beat at home. How will Newcastle have to approach that one?
Yeah, the ball, you know. Possible to be involved with the 10 home games this season. 9 wins in a draw. Quite recently against Manchester City. Now, City are injured. I think well, doing that, and they battered them. It was only 1-0, but they were so far better team, and there's so many good things happening at Villa Park. I mean, we've got the Aston Villa before. This is the crucible for a park, isn't it? The atmosphere is extraordinary. The fans are so up, but they know this is so unexpected. They bully everyone at home, and they're an exciting team to watch. So I really look forward to it, but it's not a foregone conclusion. And against Newcastle, remember, first game of the season, I was there as well. 5-1 to Newcastle again.
Yeah, I knew I could trust you to bring in that theatre reference. You are a scholar of all things football as well, at the...
So it's like they have been worse the people who need it the most, and the competence, people whether it's noticed or for they were the assistant works. And that was they were. No.
It is coming up to 8:45. In the last hour, Imran Khan, the ousted Prime Minister of Pakistan, has been given a 10-year jail sentence for allegedly leaking diplomatic correspondence. He's already in jail, serving a sentence in another case, and this judgment comes just before a general election in which he is barred from standing. Carrie Davies is our correspondent in Islamabad. What exactly was he found guilty of in this case, Carrie? So, Michelle, this particular case has been referred to as the Cypher case. It refers to an appearance by Imran Khan in March 2022, a month before he was ousted from power in a vote of no confidence. And Imran Khan appeared on stage at a rally waving a piece of paper that he said showed a foreign conspiracy against him. He said that the details of this letter said that all be forgiven if Imran Khan is removed from power. Now, the prosecution in this case have said that that amounts to Imran Khan using classified documents and also damaging diplomatic relations. And it's that second charge, damaging diplomatic relations, that holds the really long sentence. Now, either that could be at the maximum level, life imprisonment, or potentially capital punishment, the death penalty. Now, we have now heard from local reporters who are at the court, who were not allowed to attend, international media was not allowed to attend. This all took place inside Adiala jail, where Imran Khan is currently being held. We're now being told that both Imran Khan and the Prime Minister, Shahbaz Qureshi, have also been given 10 years in prison, having been found guilty in this particular case. You say earlier that it's politically motivated, and it's certainly striking the combination of cases against them, the length of these sentences, the fact that this particular ruling has come out just before an election from which he is barred from standing. Where does it leave other members of his party? Yeah, so Imran Khan, of course, is disqualified from running. That happened back in the summer. And his party, the PTI,
had their numbers electoral symbol, the cricket bat, removed from them by the electoral commission here in Pakistan. So all of the candidates that are backed by PTI are now running as independents anyway. Exactly what this will do for them and for their electoral chances, we don't know. Will this be damaging to Imran Khan who want to vote for Imran Khan because they now know he won't be out of prison anytime soon? Or will it have the reverse effect? People feel angered by this particular decision, and will instead there be a large showing of the election, the general election, into in less than 2 weeks' time. His party will be out campaigning as well. So we don't know what the reaction will be one way or the other.
The time is 13 minutes to 8. Has the reduction in inflation stumbled? Grocery prices not slowing down by quite as much as they were slowing down. Prices, of course, still rising, so inflation's still there, but they have been rising less fast. Sean Farragut's on the line for June. Sean, when we look at grocery prices in January, what do we know now about what happened? What happened? The next company counts on other everyone from like the buying out the shop, and it said the cost of our groceries in January rose by 6.8% compared to the year before. Now, that's a slight slowdown from the 6.9% figure we had in December. The reason they're calling it an inflation slowdown that has stumbled is that they saw a bigger drop in that inflation number from November to December and not so much of a drop from December to January, but prices still rising by 6.8% in the supermarkets. They describe the level of price rises as stubbornly high, and actually when they're looking at the reasonings behind it, they sort of Qatar dismiss the impact a little bit of the Red Sea shipping crisis, for example, that might have on the cost of goods. Not that it doesn't have a role, but a far bigger one it implies is competition between the supermarkets. And he said this January, people will probably notice this in recent weeks, supermarkets just weren't being as competitive with the discounts, and so you can see prices come down as much as we might have liked. What are the Bank of England? Well, the Bank of England are going to be looking at all of this data. You know, in recent weeks we've had that overall official inflation figure slightly higher than people expected. We've seen sales data reflecting that consumer confidence to be a lot worse than people thought at the end of last year. Then this week we've had bits of data out this morning like this one showing that inflation, that the fall in it is slowing down. Not a lot of people expect the Bank of England to do much this week. Those expectations haven't really changed. The base rate is at 5.25%. Many investors expect rate cuts to happen throughout the year. So it's the words from the Bank of England on Thursday. How much are they taking all of this data into account?
There we go.
having very painful contractions for those 4 days every 10 minutes. I then ended up having forceps delivery, which, without going into too much detail, involved stitching. Mabel wasn't breathing when she came out, so that was quite traumatic in itself. And yeah, I think absolutely, it's just the thought of anyone kind of feeling down in that area of your body after you've gone through such a traumatic experience is not something we perhaps want to happen.
What was the thing that made you go?
So, it's funny, you know when you talk about just listening to your body, and I kind of just had a niggle where I thought there's just something not quite right here. In my mind it was maybe just something to do with the work experience, so I was like, maybe they haven't stitched me up properly, like maybe there's just something not quite right there because I don't know, I gave birth to a child. And I also, my periods came back when they were about 6 months old, and they were pretty heavy and quite close together. So I'd actually spoken to my health visitor about that, saying, is this normal? And she said, yeah, it's absolutely normal. It's something that can happen when you have a baby, that the periods come back and they won't be the same as they were before you had a baby. But I just knew it just didn't feel right at all. I thought these are too heavy, they're too close together. So I actually just moved to the front with the gynecologist to just get kind of monitoring work as well as having this so she had right. It's funny because again her treatment, she did this really intense and everything. I could tell when she was doing the exam that she had there's something not really quite right here. She then kind of cleaned up, went outside, got moved already, and then as I stepped in the other room there was another nurse there. It was so strange. Another person. She actually just said, please don't advise to understand those changes. So, not as expected here. But yeah, for 2 days, I was back in hospital. Examination, it was that result after the that exam, result,
How did that feel?
So I actually, it was 6 weeks. I had radiotherapy every day, 5 days a week, chemotherapy once a week, and then we finished with 3 days of brachytherapy, which is turning targeted radiotherapy. So that was August, September time, and then went back to work in December. So almost 6 months.
And how did you balance not quite knowing where you were going to come out of that and, trying to carry on?
Probably not particularly well. The people used to think, oh, you're so strong, and I think, I had no choice. You just have to get on with it. And I think for me, as terrifying as it was, the thought of being able without a bump, that was kind of my inspiration every single day for just getting up, going to my appointments, and having the treatment. Because she was so naive, she didn't know what was going on, so actually that really helped to distract me from the reality of what was going on. But I've kind of always been one of these people that just get on with things.
But you're also having to just contend, and I think this is an important part of the story, you're having to contend with the fact that your treatment caused early menopause, and there's very difficult symptoms to deal with, but also a reality for you and your family with what that meant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before I started the treatment, I knew that this was one of the main side effects of the treatment, that I would be going into early menopause. I was given the option to freeze eggs and things like that, but
know, I was 27 at the time. I thought, yeah, kind of made that decision that we wouldn't do that. Again, you have to put off treatment, and so time is kind of the essence as well. So yeah, kind of came to terms with that quite quickly. But I think what I didn't realise was the actual kind of brutal side effects of just the severe brain fog, the anxiety, the hot flushes, the tiredness, the mood swings, everything like that. And that did make going back to work pretty difficult as well, because you know yourself when you're working on live programming, if your brain doesn't work, it's pretty tricky. Oh, it's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Yeah. Let me bring in Teresa at this point. As I say, consultant gynaecologist Teresa Freeman-Wang at the Whittington Health Trust. Good morning.
Good morning.
I worked in a kitchen with a chef who called me little girl. I was always so stunned by it, I never knew how to respond. I suppose misogyny is just part and parcel of being a woman in the culinary trade. I left that job and I now work for the loveliest man. It's not hard to be respectful and not patronising, and so it goes on. Thank you for those messages. I'm terribly sorry that so many have those experiences, but in a way I think it's good to be able to share this morning on the programme together, something you may not have been able to say to anyone else, especially in your workplace. But let me tell you about who's just walked into the studio. My next guest is the prize-winning writer Lisa St. Alban de Turan, who featured in a generation-defining list of authors in Granta magazine in 1983, a cohort that included Martin Amis, Pat Barker, Salman Rushdie and Rose Tremaine. Lisa's career trajectory, however, has been anything but conventional since then, and she's spent the last 2 decades living in northern Mozambique and not publishing any books. When a cyclone took the roof off of her house in 2022, she returned to London with a bag full of manuscripts, including her memoir, Better Broken Than New. Lisa, good morning. Thank you for being here. It's difficult to know where to start because there are a lot of stories in this memoir, and you say, if I can just quote this, I've played so many roles over the years: a pseudo-intellectual in London, on the run in Italy as a teenage groupie, lady of the manor in Venezuela, living in a costume drama in Norfolk, and so carry on, a novelist in the literary circuit, a businesswoman, many more. Each role, you say, required costumes and props. A recurring prop was a big house, a castle or a ruined palace, and failing that, any old room would do. A recurring exit strategy was to bolt, leaving most of the props behind, better to start a new life somewhere else. How does it feel to be back in London, 70 years old, I believe living on a houseboat?
It feels pretty good actually, and yes, I'm living on a houseboat, so that's new for me. But I'm in Kensington, Chelsea, which is where I was actually born, so that feels like it will come full circle,
A return from somewhere else.
Well, I came back to pick up my literary career really, because I've been 20 years completely out of it, in the bush. I've been writing second novels, autobiographies, collections of short stories, but not publishing anything. And meanwhile, the agency that I was with closed down, and I just think it's about being proactive. How do you still
Business circle that you thought you were going to spend a lot more time on?
Well, actually, for about the first 10 years, no. And then after that, yes, I really did. I used to do lots of readings and meet my readers, and I used to really.
It goes on in the bush. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the first year or so, I lived in a safari tent on the beach in a very, very isolated district. And then I got put on a ranch. No, my then Dutch captain who was in a hotel, therefore naturally a hotel, he took me to, I don't think it was in the cabin, it was there, it was the hotel, and then I saw the property and the fact that nobody was in this area. I didn't feel like any of the characters that were near about weren't there, they never been. So this started
And you also had a nice one, this very, very scary experience while you were partly attacked. But
yeah, that was when we rented a house in the city, somewhere hundreds of miles away, and there was a home invasion by Zionists that happened twice for hours. I mean, you were sort of following on. Yeah, they took the wall down to get in. 23 minutes they smashed down the wall into our house, and so for 23 minutes we knew that there was this gap on the
We've got the bridge at the moment. Just try and get rid of it. It's what we get with the phone lines. I'm really not surprised. Then my partner was very heroic and actually paid for the women to keep the house and do all the way into safety now. Because it's got that safety. The thing is that when you describe this as well, it's very visceral, it's larger than you say, and I think this is an issue around for everyone, but you talk about until that moment you feel like there's an invincibility about yourself, and then you're in that moment and you realise there isn't.
That was my reality check. I had never before felt that I was really at risk of anything. I had lived a different inside the whole life, but always in a bubble sort of way. And that day, it was, this is really happening to me. And I actually did nothing to do that.
How's your life changed since when you're out there?
It's like waking up. It's very strange. So that had never been the case before, but afterwards I just noticed a lot more things around me. One of the things I noticed was the little took advantage of charity that I'd sent up. So they say in the village I swallowed the word no, which I didn't used to have, but I became selective about who's human and who's not.
Big houses and views and dresses. Talk to us about that.
I was very shy when I was growing up in London. I was so shy I could hardly speak to anybody. So I sort of tried to express myself in dress, and in those days the sort of maxi skirt was in, so there were quite a lot of people with earrings, and I wasn't actually really standing out so much because a lot of people dressed quite extravagantly in London in the late 60s and early 70s. But when I went to Venezuela, where such fashion was not allowed, they just thought I was barking mad. They just thought I was absolutely nutty to be wearing these dresses. And yeah, it was a problem.
And life in Venezuela, how do you look back on that?
I look back on it with tremendous fondness. When I was living it, it was hard. It got easier, but it was very difficult. I was in the Venezuelan jungles, selling people sugar plantation, all the schizophrenic husband with 52 families, peasant workers. And I grew up in London. I had everything about growing sugar cane, avocados, there were doctors, and I had to do medical procedures. Well, that was pretty good. When I watch television, I see some doctors dead. But
in some ways you sound fluid throughout your life, following different people and living such different lives, and obviously you did provide in that instance inspiration for people.
I think that I became less scared. I didn't start out fearless. I was really good. And that's a fact. I became courageous. That pushed me to make a decision. Courageous or I don't believe.
That group of larger men I talked about, those writers that you believe in powerful, but maybe even friends and family. How did that work?
Well, I'd met some Russian before because he was at university with my then husband. And I later became friendly with Royston, who was actually London, and a couple of the other people. But they had a sort of, most of the men had a clique. It was literally, it was not comfortable. I came from nowhere and had immediate success. And I think because of the fact that I was able to publish a new book right in the middle of that campaign, because I had a whole suitcase full of books waiting to publish, it gave me that unfair advantage, which wouldn't be dealing with those who were already at the top, which was kind of upstart. But I was at the time married to George Beck, part of the literary establishment.
It sounds like in some ways there's two things between, but it sounds like you're sort of almost back down because it's simple and because those names in some ways are going to be for some people more household names and what they've continued to do since that moment.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And for you now, are you trying to write? Have you got lots of books ready to go? I mean, what's the situation? You sound like you've got a case for last time.
I've got my
got two collections of short stories, and probably just really good something and work out how to it's another adventure. You think this is it with you and where you live now and how slowly you never say never. It's having people inside the mind of someone who's living around the world and doing different things. Mad keen on adventures. I'm quite cautious. I try to avoid them. Something like having another one. The way I've just described your life, you're not mad keen on it now, okay. I've reached that point in my life and I'm very much not trying to have a debate. Okay, so there you go. It's good to get that. That sort of is your writing, is it from your background, is it from your parents, where would you say it comes from? My father is a novelist and I grew up with, let's say, the military family. My uncle Wilson Harris was also a novelist and from the age of about 12 that was what I wanted to do and I think yes, it must be a little bit in my blood because I've got 3 children, they're all writers too, so it continues, yes. All best with it, as you say, and as it's been described to me, not quite in any way conventional the stories in here, but definitely memorable. The book's called Better at Broken, all the best with it. Lisa's and all the described there. And I'm sure some people will be very familiar with her work, and there's more to come, as you've just heard. More text messages coming in, thank you for this, about experiences at work and in different environments where perhaps you haven't been able to say something that you feel you can this morning. When I was a secretary in the 80s in a huge company, sexism was accepted as normal. Apart from the usual sexual comments, men would sometimes grab my hands and shake me from side to side so they could watch me, quote, jiggle, and would run their hands up my skirt when I put their cup of coffee down. I look back and I wonder why I didn't do something. It seemed you had no choice but to go along with it. It was a real boys' club culture. And another one here, when I was in marketing, I had a much older male client who continuously propositioned me, wanted to buy me gifts, and phoned or texted me multiple times a day in the evening and on weekends. I now work in a bookshop, and while I now have an amazing boss, I am always upset by how many male customers think they're entitled to know personal information about me, or just feel entitled to my time. It can be hard to end a conversation with a valued customer, even when you feel a boundary is being crossed. Fascinating. So many of these examples, there aren't quite things you can do with them. They're cultural, as well as, of course, there's been some that are definitely harassment and would be criminal, never mind anything else, breach of HR, but it's knowing where to put them and how to talk about them, and you're doing that this morning with your messages. Thank you for those. But if you were listening to the programme you were with me last week, you might remember we spoke about the record low birth rate in China as the country struggles to revert the effects of the decades-long one-child policy. Today, let's turn our attention to Japan, another country grappling with the same issue. The population of the world's third biggest economy has been declining for 16 years. An aging workforce combined with the country's strict immigration controls has, among other things, led to significant labour shortages, but there might be a solution, at least a partial one. A recent article in The Economist suggested women could be Japan's hidden asset. The author of that article, Marika Ida, she's The Economist's reporter and researcher in Tokyo. Marika, good morning, or good evening to you, I should say. Thank you for staying up for us.
Good morning. Good morning. Very nice.
Talk to us about how women could make a difference to Japan's economy. What we've been looking at.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, like Japan is really on the edge when it comes to aging and population decline. So we're seeing a lot of labor shortages at a lot of companies and workplaces, and also immigration is a separate topic, but Japan doesn't really open its doors to immigration. So more women are in demand and they're staying in on the workforce. And I think we saw a lot of changes during the Abe administration. So the former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, who was assassinated 2 years ago, he promoted this idea of womenomics. I realized we had Kathy Matthews, formerly at Goldman Sachs, on the show, so she coined this term, but Abe Shinzo really promoted this idea when he was in office, and so that's why we started to see a lot more women go back into the workforce, and it had a lot of effects in some ways. So in 2022, the employment rate for women aged 25 to 39 went over 80% for the first time, and that's actually quite impressive. That's higher than places like America.
But you still, I understand, an issue when you're thinking that someone or why they should after they've had their children when they have to do all of the housework because there isn't an equal sharing of domestic duties. domestic, all the housework, look after the children, and have a job.
Exactly. So I think women are still kind of in that dilemma of, on one hand, wanting to be a good mother, and then on the other hand, wanting to do really good at your job. And I think there has been some improvement in recent years. So back in the day, there used to be a big issue with lack of nurseries and lack of access to daycare facilities. The government has really seen that as an issue and really put effort into that. So there's been these days there's not that many children who are on waiting lists to enter nursery, so that used to be a problem back in the day. So that infrastructure side has improved a lot, but I think as you mentioned, there's still this very unequal division of labor when it comes to domestic work. So I saw some statistics that show a woman in
When you say outside sometimes. Hindi.
Oh, it's windy?
Yeah. Hindi. I used to put my eyes to the Hindi. I can picture it.
I think we started the list because we thought we'd remember all your first words, and then there was just so many of them that we thought we better write them all down.
this.
Oh, what's this? You see that all the time too. This.
Tumble.
Oh, that one's so cute. Tumble. Tumble. This one, do you remember this one?
Oh, yeah.
Holy ho, we ride the fire truck. Holy ho, we ride the fire truck. Ding, 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 ding. When you started doing this, did you know that my parents also done this for me when I was around 2 months or 2?
I don't think that I knew. Honestly though, my short-term memory was not good. I could have told your mom and dad that I was doing this, and they could have told me that they had typed out these words that you said. I really think that I just didn't know, and I just felt like it was something that I wanted to do because it's such a big part of my daily interaction with the birth kids.
You guys like having these books?
Yeah.
Where do you like them?
They're really funny. They are very funny. But it also like reminds me of the things I used to say.
Do you remember saying any of those things? Not really, right?
No.
Were from like before you can remember.
Yeah.
Is it funny to imagine like that was actually you saying all those things?
Yes. Yeah, it's funny.
It's interesting. If you write things down, you can go back and go, oh, this started when this person is like 0 to 2 years old.
It's true. It's very, very interesting.
Yes. And look at you. Look what you do in your profession. And what you were not supposed to do.
Oh, there you go.
And I always got the feeling that you try to see things before you can actually get the language. And so you just made up your own language.
You realized you had learned the language.
Yeah, that was the bias I knew. And
You were like afraid you would forget the words.
oh yeah, I knew it because I was forgetting what I heard. That's what I found out when it came.
I just thought it was really interesting and really special how they were starting to be able to express themselves. They started saying one word, where they started making a sound that sounded like a word, and it sort of had meaning for us, but other people would hear it and not really be able to understand. And I wasn't afraid that I was going to forget. I knew that I was going to forget some of those very early words, or some of the early sentences that they started to put together.
There's so much of that time that we kind of can't remember. Unless we happen to have a photo or happen to see get something on video.
Yeah.
It's supposed to happen. So someone told me at the time, when we had a baby, that they would, some other mom was like, oh, it's sort of like things go so fast that you have, she called it present tense nostalgia. The feeling of nostalgia almost, but it's like coming so quickly that it's like you're having it while things happen.
you're nostalgic for the current moment because you feel how fleeting they are. And once you've had a few of these big changes or big developments, you start to feel that feeling of like everything happens here for such a short time.
Yeah.
And so you almost start to like miss the thing almost as it occurs. It's like for me, when I think of something, this is once I would have told you like, oh, write that one. It's because like you know they're gonna say it 100 times in one day, 1,000 times in a week, and then maybe 2 weeks never again. Gaze into the black pond, the last water lily in autumn wind, the tears she shed in the early hours of the morning. What container shall we use to collect them? moment, I bow my head in silence, thinking of summer haiku without endings. I think I'm just passing by. I flap my transparent wings. A layer of frost falls behind me on the snow. A thin flash of gold, guiding the lost wind. To escape from the witchcraft of fear, I'm often naked. Flowing through the river of memories. To hear my childlike cries, echoing the field. Piece by piece. Looking out the window, and even though it's raining, I really feel that I'm in the calm between the two storms. And I'm thinking about all of the trees that survived that last one. Hoping they'll survive again. How long it takes to put down those roots.
Seeing that they are starting to open the door. She sees that they are starting to open the door because there were 3 people we know afterwards.
Okay.
There were 3 people trying to open this door. with terrorists. And then Mayan jumped on the door. Mayan stood and told Safi to grab the door. And they're screaming outside, we don't shoot, we don't shoot. But then they shot on the door. And Mayan got a bullet and she was hit. But we didn't understand it at that moment. Safi was screaming, he was shot, he was hit. And then he screamed, it's Mayan, and she just laid beside him. She fell down beside him. And they had succeeded to open the door, the meeting behind the door, and they turned on the lights, and there were screamings. And Safi is shouting, find where she's bleeding from. Find where Mayan is bleeding from. I can't see where she's bleeding from. And she was in a huge puddle of blood. And then we checked her, and then I've seen that the hit was in the head, and it was a critical injury. They have shouted at us to get out of the security room, and we both have just told the children, don't look, and I took the children out.
The Hamas gunmen held them captive meters away from Mayan's home. Then the attackers started to live stream the family's ordeal on Gary's own Facebook account. Eventually, Safi is dragged away from his wife and children and taken as a hostage to Gaza.
My children are screaming, don't take them, don't kill our dad. And they are saying, don't worry, he'll be back. He'll be back. And they are telling them, he'll be back. We don't kill, he'll be back. So they drive away, and then they're left there. We still hear missiles, we hear shooting all around us, and we don't move because they told us we won't die because they will live. I hope.
Close by, in Kibbutz Be'eri, Gilad was still hiding hours after fleeing from the Nova Festival.
It was a very stressful situation. Police also came with a dead body from the party. They had to evacuate it also. He was half dead, half alive. But when we got to the extraction point, he was already deceased. And then after that, they took me to the hospital with different ambulance. And all the way, you can see all the carnage, all the death, all the smoke.
18 hours after we went in, IDF Army dropped out. After fearing they would be murdered, Leon, her husband and children finally emerged from their safe room in Nahal Oz. The way they got us out was Ruth and Reva came to our window, yelling our name, telling us that it's him, and telling us that he's here with the army outside, you can get out and open the door for us. We had exactly 2-3 minutes to pack whatever we could, pick up. At that moment, we remembered to bring my ID, but we didn't remember to bring shoes for our kids. We tried to make a list in our head of things that we could need, but half of it we forgot. But I said, don't worry about it, it's fine. We'll be fine. But we're getting out. We saw fires everywhere. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. It was a scene from a movie. My car and my husband's car and our neighbor's 2 cars were burnt all the way down to the ship. Only the frame was left. It was a full-on war zone. Michael was trying to piece together information about the fate of his brother-in-law and sister-in-law Ina. He learned that she was killed and he had been kidnapped.
I started obsessively calling all the hospitals and asking if they saw someone who mentioned their survived the attack of the Nova Festival. So I started gathering those and looking for them. I started calling friends, calling family that might have heard something. But unfortunately, I couldn't find them. With the help of good friends, we started to gather any piece of information about this bomb shelter. At first, we wanted to understand where it was because there are quite a few. So I got a video of them inside. Then I saw a painting of the outside wall of the bomb shelter, and we contacted the person who painted it to make sure that
Yeah, dialects or varieties of the language. Because we refer to these Englishes as varieties, like in a sense treating them as equal.
Well, are they equal though? I think you have a theory that perhaps we don't treat them as equal, so
You see, when you talk about it linguistically, there's nothing in any variety of English that makes it better than another. It is people who actually attach meaning to a variety and basically say that variety or that accent I love, or this variety I hate. On the level of language, basically, or linguistics, they're all equal. But when people actually start making judgments on other people's accents, that's when unequal linguists then come in, because people don't treat these Englishes equally.
and back with my league table, tell me some dialects and varieties, if you like, that have high status, or if you don't want to put it round that way, that have low status, and why that might be.
Well, we have this term called the inner circle. The inner circle of English, the outer circle of English, and the expanding circle of English. These are terms that circulate within our own field because of we take it from Katru, one of the major leaders in the field. And in the inner circle, this is where English is generally used as a first language. So you have the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, places like Australia. So these are the inner circle of English, where the kinds of Englishes that are usually used are the ones that are usually patterned after in many educational systems in different parts of the world. So in the Philippines, the so-called standard is American English. In Singapore, the so-called standard is supposed to be British English. So these are the ones that are usually considered as standard, desirable Englishes, right? But the local ones are the ones that usually suffer from mockery, from devaluing. These are the ones that are culturally rich in terms of development, but they are the ones that are usually banned from school or are discouraged from school. These are the ones that are considered inappropriate.
Yes. And the justification usually is that if you go on speaking like that, it will prevent you from moving up the social ladder, that it will prevent you from having access to, say, jobs in law, in education, television, radio. So quite often there's a professional justification given for that, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, it's professional, and actually it's something that's pervasive. It's an ideology that there's a particular standard has to exist in order for communication to happen across different interactions, for example. But the reality really is, if English is indeed an international language, if we actually accept the fact that English is a global language, then it is a language that actually crosses borders and crosses cultures.
So we conjugate the verb to be in English, standard conjugations to say we were. Where I come from in London, so we say we was.
Yeah.
So that as a variety of English might be that, say, somebody teaching English in Singapore would say, well, if one of the students saying he was, conjugating the verb correctly, they would say, well, no, that's not right. We were, and they're saying that because they think that the mutual understanding of English across the world, we were understood. We are, as I say, in London, I just quite often saying television football, saying he was, but the argument is that we were is a form of international, nowadays anyway, a form of international communication. He was might cause a little communication clip. People going, he was, what do they mean by that?
Yeah, two ways to actually respond to that question. The first one really is that, well, this is where context matters. In what context do you use English? Because
your competence basically, at least with the idea of English as an international language, competence in English is not just simply competence in just one variety. You must be able to not only switch between different Englishes, you must also be able to listen to the different accents to be able to do well and successfully in a communication situation. Number two, research actually hasn't really shown that if you're given this context of views that are not supposed to be correct, that communication suffers. I think it's more like a fear that something happens to communication if these little changes to the language actually are admitted. But actually it happens, it is being used, it is being deployed in everyday communication, and things still are going on, and effective communication continues. The idea here basically is, again, I go back to this whole idea of English as an international language. If it is international, then it's English inflected with different accents and different sounds, and I think that should be how a competent speaker should actually be evaluated by.
Give me a flavour of maybe how you might be talking with your children or with a friend, not in this rather formal situation of me talking to you in the studio.
So, in terms of the Philippine English, it's acceptable to use and the father. Where's your father? Where's your mother? This is mother. It's basically all coming all together for as long as we understand it. Where's your father? Where's your mother? Go to the grocery store, like that. So it's more about mixing up all of these sounds that supposedly are meaningful in American English. We just all lump them all together.
And tell us about in your background and how you became interested in this matter of varieties of English, inequalities, if you like, in the use of English. What's your English background?
Well, my interest in this research or on this topic is primarily a very personal one, and I think a lot of Filipinos have gone through this experience as well, because we were all educated in the English language, the medium of instruction. We were not allowed to speak in our own Philippine languages. We were asked and required to speak in English. I remember growing up in school where we were running out of English words. We had to whisper and basically ask, can I speak English? Because where would we find if we referred to the words in the vernacular?
Right, so if you were putting in a word, because you didn't know the word for conversation, let's say, the teacher would then say, the correct English word is conversation.
So that's first we needed to speak English. And the moment we would speak English, we would then be corrected based on our pronunciation, based on the correct way of using the language. And that actually has taken all the way of confidence as a speaker of English and also as a speaker of multiple Philippine languages. Because we needed to go by or have a certain standard of way of speaking. And it's not just during my time, actually even now, the English only policy in several institutions in the Philippines, despite the fact that a lot of Filipinos, especially the younger ones, are still not very proficient in the language, but they're being forced to use the language. So there are multiple layers of discrimination, we call it that, because not only are you required to speak English, for example, in the school, but they're also required to speak in a particular way.
American English?
Yes. It has to be, the American accent.
American accent and American words, so you say sidewalk rather than pavement, that's the famous example that people always give.
But the irony, of course, there is that because linguistically, if you are shaped by your own languages and your own cultures, you speak in a particular way. Your own English will have its own variety. So even if the teacher who says, my standard is American English, may not necessarily actually be able to speak in an American standard way. Precisely because her own or his own way of speaking English is also very much influenced by the languages that they speak.
So it's a American English, as it were, if you put it all up. Excuse my ignorance, when did English first get introduced into the Philippines?
Well, during the Philippine-American War, in the early 1900s, 1899 to 1902, there was Philippine-American War. So just a bit of a background. Before that, the Philippines was under Spain for 22 years, and there was, in a sense, a change of power from the Spanish to the Americans. And it began with the Philippine-American War.
咁早嘅，今日你哋
Time, one way to
哥哥，你今日你哋咁早嘅，哥哥？
was to change the education landscape and introduce English as
如果你試下呢個，你中唔中意食啊？
And has Spanish
嚇？
assisted
唔知啊？
the Philippines?
At some point, yes, because of course, it did not really, when English was introduced, first 2 decades of American colonization, not only was English introduced, but it was introduced in textbooks that were actually meant for Americans in the United States because of the lack of material. So, the first few decades of American rule, Filipinos were learning English, but at the same time also were learning American culture because the central plan of design was basically to Americanize Filipinos. So it's not so much, you're right, it's not so much about like just the English language itself, but the manner by which it was taught, the manner by which the entire education system and social, the society as it were inferior to favor American culture as well. Even now, systems of government are very much based on American system as well. So the Constitution has some colonial influences in the language as well.
So in a way, we can say language is connected to power, the power of the American position in different governments, and power connected to language. That's its presence in the country. Now, you speak in a certain way, you speak beautifully. If I could bring your children in here, as it were, that's immaculate here, do they speak the same way as you're interested in the way in which languages pass around in families? People say that I speak quite like my parents, but my own children hear nothing like me at all. So there's been some kind of change. Why do I speak like my parents, but my children don't speak like me?
Exactly.
So what's happened in your family?
Actually, my children, they were born in Singapore, Filipinos, but born in
Huh?
Singapore. So much of their
Do you speak
growing
like
years
Chinese
were
people?
basically
Because you were
influenced by
born and
Singapore's
raised in
society and
China.
culture.
Yeah.
Even though I was born in China,
English is the
I was
necessary
raised in
primary
England.
medium of
That's why
instruction.
my accent.
So they actually learn English
Yeah.
ahead of Filipino vernacular language. Because my wife
I think that's
and
why.
Yeah.
she speaks a Philippine language that I don't understand, and I speak a Philippine language that I also doesn't understand.
Yes,
So
I should say your wife is sitting in the gallery, so you're waving to each other. Yes, you can communicate by waving. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and it's complicated by the fact that the children were born in Singapore and they needed English in order to do well in the education system. So the English that they actually learn is more reflective of Singaporean influences. We call it Singlish, for example.
Which will have some Malay words and some
Yes,
Mandarin as well.
Definitely Hokkien, because they are Hokkien, and also actually Tamil and some other Indian languages. It's a combination of all of these languages. And so it's even going back to the question, they have a much wider repertoire. Because they're Filipinos in general, they speak English, but they also draw these words to practice their English essentially. But we have been allowed to try using English with the children in the classes very, very easily. So we really it's all repertoire. So we probably will using actually switch into different subjects. In fact, when we are in Singapore, try to comprehend it first and foremost. But the question here is, what do you do? And in research, in my field, a lot of questions about comprehension or comprehensibility really is not tied down to the language aspect, the linguistic aspect, but that's what you said, prejudice. So when I think that this accent is undesirable, I don't provide or give effort to understand this person. I refuse to go beyond the accent in order to try to understand. And this is what we, in teacher training, for example, this is what we usually remind teachers, to get pupils to really go beyond accents, to go beyond the languages that people actually use in conversation, and focus more on the content and the substance of the communication. Because, miscommunication, breakdown in communication, it happens all the time. But what do you do with it? That's the trick, that's the strategy, that's the core. And what you do with it depends on your attitude.
There's also a way in which you can be curious or not curious about the reasons why people speak in different ways.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to the great former linguist, celebrator of Jamaican culture, Louise. Her explaining to me that this or that aspect of Jamaican language, Jamaican language, that certain aspects of it are reflected with Africanism. So, for example, repeating a word rather than using an adverb in it to make it more or something. So you might repeat it several times and you get examples of this. And it suddenly then became something that was immediately interesting, if you like, not a problem in a sense. So if you can turn it over and say, well, look at the way I say this. Or look at the way I make a plural, for example. Say a plural for I, instead of saying I, you might say I. And that this came from an African language and so on, so it was a survival. And that aspect of listening and tuning into people's dialects and then being reasons for it, and not everybody can be an amateur linguist, but at the same time, it's always very interesting, and it creates a sort of different atmosphere if you're suddenly interested, as opposed to saying, please don't talk like that, you're bothering me.
Yes, that's right. This is why it is in the context of unequal linguages, we are talking about people's different values and perceptions of different languages, but actually at the end of the day, these are not really just simply perceptions of these accents, these are perceptions of the people who actually use these accents.
Now you come through the university system yourself. Were there various times within that system that you sensed that people were regarding the way you speak as being inferior, not acceptable? I don't know what word you would use.
Yes, and especially because I do not come from Manila, which is the capital city. I remember because the first time that I went to Manila was when I actually went to university. It was so scary to speak.